Good morning. Afternoon. It's afternoon, gentlemen. Of course, it's a midday show. It's always afternoon. How are we going, guys?
We're going good. It's afternoon for us. It's not afternoon for Mano, who couldn't bring
Yeah,
us.
very good. Good point.
Yeah, no. So I can actually legitimately say, good afternoon, gentlemen, today, and it's true.
Yep.
Yes, no. For those joining us, our regular visitors, viewers, attendees, Mano had a calendar conflict and will not be joining us this week. But so it's back to Three Horsemen this week with myself, Matt, and Richard. Gentlemen, how's it's Hump Day? Does it feel humpy? I mean, do you feel like you've had good momentum going up the hill during the week, and now you're ready for the downhill run to Friday?
Yeah, definitely. I get my Mondayitis at like Wednesday, so yeah. Today for me was just frantic trying to catch up. I got to travel on Friday, so I've got like a 3-day week now. Yeah.
Work or pleasure? What kind of travel you got?
Oh, it's not pleasure. It's a family thing, and it's a funeral related thing. So yeah,
yeah.
One of those commitments.
Sorry to hear that, mate. And of course, as well as any emotional toll that those sorts of events take, the workload toll is also real of working out how to do more in less time, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, keep the plates spinning without falling over.
Yep. Yeah, I tried something new this week, which I'll talk about in a sec. Richard, how's your week been?
I just keep spinning out the amount of conversation around AI in the media, on the web, social, and people still aren't getting their head around it quick enough. And then just as we do, Matt and I were talking earlier about another takeover, another change, another company merging. Yeah, it is just accelerating along, and we can't get our heads around it quick enough.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's very real. And as we've talked about previously on this show, one of the issues with all this AI technology is you're not actually necessarily getting time back. You're just doing more in the same amount of time. And so you don't get that little break because you don't go, oh, cool, I finished all my work by midday. Now I can take the afternoon off. You go, cool, now I've got like another 5 hours to get more stuff done. And so then you just keep like just cramming and just sort of doing more and more and more. And we're not taking the break. We're just, I mean, it used to be that whole thing like, work bled into real life, like real life being outside of work, when people started getting laptops and they were taking their laptops home, and then they were getting mobile phones, they were taking their phones home, and they were doing emails on their phone and Blackberries and so on. So for the last 25, 30 years, we've seen work go from that thing you do from 9 to 5 at the office to slowly creeping out into all parts of your life, generally speaking, depending what job you do. I know, obviously, if you're on site building a house and as a chippy, you're not doing that at home. You're doing that 7 to 3. So it is trade specific. But for many people working sort of desk jobs, we've seen that scope creep of work and life. And I think AI now, it's not giving the time back. It's just meaning that the ones that are using it are accelerating and doing more and being more productive.
And it's a really good point. I remember I did some work for Cisco Systems, who proved what an intranet did, Matt, 27 years ago. And I think his name was Solvik, was the CIO for Cisco at the time. And he got a 1,400% ROI by putting in an intranet. No one ever knew what an intranet was, of course. It was all filing and physical filing and digital sharing, or not just then. And he got such a big return internally at Cisco. The story as it goes, I think it was Peter Solvik was the guy's name. Apologies if I got that wrong. I think the board said to him, okay, you can do whatever you want, provided you get that same 1,400% return on your investment sort of thing. And I got empowered by Cisco to travel around the world and talk about this as a value proposition, so people could put the technical commercial value together. And I was traveling around the world talking about VPNs, and VPNs as they were sold to you rather than build it yourself, but still using the Cisco technology, which was embedded in a lot of the partners like the telcos and that. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I got back from customers and CIOs and partners and that, well, if I do that, I'm going to have to sack all those people. So we came up with a story about repurposing those people, because there was a tiered chart to say, you won't need this. It was like I think I mentioned the typing pool last week. And so everyone was getting ready, and we had to change the narrative completely of efficiency because CIOs didn't want to sack their staff. They were building empires. We're talking 27 years ago. They weren't wanting to downsize. And what you're saying is the same thing. We're doing more with less, more efficiently, but it doesn't mean we stop doing more. And the whole story about, am I competitive advantage? Am I getting, well, if you're doing it and someone else isn't, you're getting more done. There's your competitive advantage. So one of the key things about AI was, as it was for internet and intranets, if you're not doing it, you're screwed. You're in the back of the room. If you are doing it, you're just keeping up. But if you do it cleverly, there's your competitive advantage. And you need an intimate understanding of the technology that you guys often talk about and the business processes. And it's not just about getting home to your wife or family earlier. It's about, what am I doing differently using this technology to disrupt the world I live in?
1000% ROI is pretty intense. What like, for people that don't know what an intranet is versus the internet, what even is that?
Yes. So it's a very good point. I did say to someone at a talk I did in Europe in front of a lot of people that as soon as people stop using the term internet, we will know it has arrived. Because we don't say internet anymore, or as I think President George Bush once said, the interwebs, because he wasn't sure if it was a World Wide Web or the internet, which was very funny. So the intranet is just the web technology, but used for information within your company. And it became this accelerated way that people had never experienced to share information. And we started off walking around and handing files and using the photocopier. And then we got a little smarter and we started loading and saving files on a server here, but you had to log in, had to be in your area, and you had to get permission. Or we used to use what I called SneakerNet, where you had a floppy disk, sometimes a CD-ROM, and you burnt the files on there and you ran around the building to share it. So we called that SneakerNet. That was a pretty good one. So you shared all the same files. So an intranet is just an information sharing technology architecture that mainly uses web hypertext, and off you go.
It was just private web pages just for your company to share announcements and knowledge. SharePoint is the modern version of it.
Well, that is exact, but the efficiency it delivered to business was through the roof.
So when you were talking about that, I just had a bit of a light bulb, like I'm hoping a lot of the audience did as well, where the idea of an intranet is the idea of your business information, data, files, all the stuff that you just said, being accessible from anywhere for those company team members, but also for the company applications and therefore agents.
Exactly my thinking. That's exactly right. So if you've got an intranet AI or sovereign AI that operates and you're making sure you've got access to the data that's unique to your company, now you'll get competitive advantage because that's your company's knowledge. I read about a guy recently who was trying to create a narrative about what he did himself in his timeline, and he got all of his files, all of his emails, like hundreds of thousands of them, and threw them at an agentic AI. And it came back with a perfect description of him, timelines, where he worked, what he did, why he did it, what he was good at, what he wasn't good at. It was pretty clever.
That's cool.
And if you did that for a company, wow, how powerful is that?
Yeah. So that kind of thing, like this is sort of similar to what we talked about last week, where, external actors can affect and, the prompt injections and all that kind of stuff. When you have your internal, like your sovereign agent running on your own data, that is like a next sort of force multiplier, productivity increase, all of those kinds of things. Where's that file stored? No idea. Ask the agent.
It's the sovereign thing. There's some news that's come out around sovereign stuff. I'm going to loop back on a little bit later, but just on the productivity thing with apps and tools and productivity and how AI is helping you do more in the same amount of time. It's easy to go, oh, I've got to do so much more. And we do talk about as knowledge workers, the cognitive load of having the next task and the next task. And there's certainly something real there. But I mean, if we think about technology throughout, that ability to have things that do things faster, like a power tool, like all of a sudden now I've got a drill. Now I can drill 100 holes in an hour instead of 10, rather with the old cranks thing. So you go, well, that's actually a good thing. I can do more in the same amount of time. Did you hear about the guy who ran like a lumberjack company? And he hired a new lumberjack And this guy was meant to be the best. Everyone said this guy is the best at taking trees down. And so he hired him, gave him his tools, sent him out. And the first day he felled like only a handful of trees, and everyone else was sort of doing dozens of trees a day. And he was like, "Is everything all right?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just getting the hang of it. Like that's fine." But day after day, this guy who was meant to be the best, he just was not delivering anywhere near the same results as everyone else. And so the boss goes, "There must be something wrong with this chainsaw. Like what's going on here?" And so he says, "Can I just look at your tools?" And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, no worries." He comes over and the boss sort of grabs the chainsaw and he rips the cord, goes, "Row!" And the lumberjack goes, "Whoa, what is that noise?"
I feel a metaphor coming on. Go for it, David.
But it's that idea, like he had this tool, but he wasn't using it. So can you imagine this guy just hacking at trees with a chainsaw like it was an axe? I mean, these AI tools, all these productivity tools, they exist there, but some people are going to be hacking at the trees with them, and some people are going to be firing them up and really seeing huge benefits from it. Whereas for some people, it's actually going to make them slower because they don't understand it, they don't know what it is. This lumberjack story, give the guy an axe, he would have done a lot better than working with a chainsaw, right? And so there is going to be a whole change management process and education journey that businesses and people have to go on in order to actually leverage these tools. So it's great to say, okay, let's now put, instead of an intranet, we've got our internal agent that has access to all our corporate data. But how do you make sure people actually know what they should be asking the agent for? How do they make sure they're actually getting the value and the return on the investment of installing that agent? And so that you can have the best tools in the world, but if your staff are scared of them, don't understand them, don't know how to use them, don't recognize the value, it's a waste of money.
It's true. It's a good point.
Can you hear me all right? Because I think I've frozen.
Yeah, your camera's frozen.
We can hear you, but yeah, you're looking very pensive.
It's not the best frozen look. We'll leave it there for now, so we still
I've
communicate.
seen worse.
You're just judging anything that we say.
Yes. I'm unimpressed.
He's very
I
disappointed.
don't know how I fixed that, but we'll push on. So, David, you've been, you and Matt are the guys really at the cold face. You've both been working on some stuff this week. What's the exciting thing you've been working on?
I can speak to something hopefully that's relatable or understandable. There's a tool called Obsidian that is like a note-taking tool. It's the idea of capturing your notes and owning the files, owning the data, as opposed to putting it in a tool like Notion or something where it saves on their cloud, and if they die, then you don't have access to this stuff anymore. So the creator of Obsidian, like the founder, he always talks about the idea of file over app, like own the files, don't worry about owning the app kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I have been following Obsidian for a while, and everyone is pretty comfortable with the idea of markdown files now, and that LLMs and agents love, using markdown files. The whole Obsidian thing is based on that. And they've recently come out with an early access CLI tool. So I had the idea of seeing
CLI for the players at home.
Command line interface. So like a terminal interface tool for interacting with your Obsidian Vault. So I had this idea of basically rebuilding Obsidian functionality into something completely different, but for agents. So for my agents, so for my local, coding agents that I use, like Claude Code, Open Code, all those, as well as any kind of OpenClaw thing that I spin up on VPSs, and they all can access this same knowledge base, which I'm calling my core, like the knowledge core. And I've basically built this thing where it's like the Obsidian CLI. So it's this agent-specific tool harness that they can use with zero friction, and it's just like they're accessing like a hive mind, if you will. So it's my notes, my knowledge, and all of these agents are able to interact with it, add to it, edit, give me things to look at. Like I built my own Rust-based CLI application for these agents to use, and it's insane. It works so well. And then also my own TUI, so my own terminal user interface for accessing this as well, and basically my own application layer on top of it. So it's been really, really interesting, really fun.
People always talk about the search engine. We're really building the intelligent information engine for instant recall, for everything we want to know and everything we want to find. And although the human brain is limited, I think, by 11 main variables in identifying a pattern, with the support of something like that, it's kind of limitless what we can do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like when I open up my thing and run a search, it actually does 3 different search algorithms all at once. You've got the BM25, which is like a keyword, and you've got a similarity search, which is through the vector stuff, embeddings, and then also just through connections through the actual knowledge graph itself. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is very impressive, Matt. I like the way you talk.
Thank you.
That's why, because I've been saying to a few people recently, like, search at the operating system level feels like it's got worse. So I remember back in the 90s, I was back in the DOS days even, and then through the early Windows days, I was very regimented with all of my file structures. Like when I was in uni and stuff, I'd have this year, this semester, this term, this subject, and like I just had like deep hierarchies of all my folder structures, so I could quickly and easily navigate to things and find where my data was for any given project on any given subject. Then, as search technology got better in the operating system layer, I kind of became lazy and just went, I just have a documents folder. It's all in there, and I can just search the name, bang, it's going to find me the thing. I don't need to worry as much around having my detailed file hierarchies. But I found in the last couple of years, maybe because there's just so many tiny files and things, and all the little node and web files and all the other bits and pieces that are involved in being in an operating system now that get indexed. The search engines at the operating system layer on Windows, on Mac, doesn't matter, are just getting dumber. And I can't find files quickly anymore. They don't surface things, and I've got to go back to having an old school folder structure. And the LLMs are great with stuff they've been trained on, or if they've got a RAG database they can sort of vector and search in. But have you tried searching for old chats inside ChatGPT or any of these things? It's rubbish. Like, just trying to search through your old chats is so impossible. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Can you not give me a better way of searching through my old conversations?
So let me ask the obvious question that some of the punters will want to know. So I'm sitting here. I've got a Mac. I've got a laptop. I've got iCloud. I've got Dropbox. I've got all my emails here and inside Gmail and a few other places. Is there an agent I can buy or install? Because I'm not technical. I used to be, but not anymore. And it will be my personal LLM to cut across all of that data. How would I do that?
What you've got is fragmentation.
Yep.
I mean, Matt's probably got a similar or different point of view. Step one is rationalization. How many of those places do you really need? And doing some consolidation would be the most probably impactful thing you could do. And then secondly, and I'll let Matt talk to this, there's plenty of like what I call hands you can give to agents that would interrogate those different data sources.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the hands thing is like such an easy analogy for people to think of. Like it's like you mentioned the chainsaw before. You know, like the idea of cutting down a tree, you basically need something to hold with your hands in order to actually get it done. So the actual sort of tooly dev language of that is just the simple API. So as long as those software layers give you APIs that you can access or that your agents can create tooling around, that's what you need. And that last sentence is the key. A lot of people don't realize that if you just run up your Claude Code instance or anything like that, and you say, hey, I have a Gmail inbox, I would love you to be able to search through it. How can I give you that access? It will pretty much say, well, you probably need to go to the Google Cloud platform and give me some credentials, and I'll walk you through it. Like that's how I learn pretty much everything that I've done, is just saying, I have this thing that I want to do. Let's research it and figure it out together. And you have to treat me like an idiot and do one step at a time. Otherwise, I'm not going to keep up. But yeah, like to get like an instant all-in-one thing for what you said, Richard, about how do you just buy that agent that does all those things? That's what all these companies are trying to create right now. You've got so many. I could probably try and list a few, but the thing is that they're going to keep coming out, and there's going to be these weird new names like so-and-so agent, and this company's bought this agent, and like we keep mentioning OpenClaw a lot over these last few episodes. That's just an example of somebody going, what if we just did it? And it didn't take long for that to get acquired. So
even tools that have been around for a bit longer for automation stuff, things like N8N, that allow you to connect into these platforms and systems, and then connect that, like run agents across them, do things. Even we talked a lot length last week around my little DC superhero team for my internal little business operating system sort of things I'm doing with anti-gravity, what I call anti-claw, which I've now put a version on Git as an open source repo for people to go and pull down my little DC superhero skills. I sort of stripped all my IP out of it and out of my business data, and made a sort of a generic starter pack that people can install and go through an onboarding process to explain who your company is. And then you've got my little team of agents to help you out.
Mate, your story has been doing the rounds.
So that's actually something people can install into Claude Code or Anti-Gravity or Cursor or anywhere else, and Codex. It works across all these new LLM coding platforms and know what skills are, because that's the technology. Where was I going with that? But I wanted to give it hands. And so I wanted it to be able to check my calendar and see what events I've got coming up. I wanted it to be able to scan through my inbox. And I didn't want to go to the Google API and work out how to write a full API connection through Google. But I knew in N8N had pre-configured Google Mail connections. It had Outlook connections. It had all these things. Plus, I could then use manual APIs if I needed to. And so I said, here's a N8N workflow that can read my inbox and can read my calendar. Here's another N8N workflow where you can send emails, so you can send me updates to my inbox from your own email address. I wanted to review all my web stats and things. So I did a little bit of homework on this and worked with it. And I built some manual connectors to Google Analytics and to the YouTube API to pull my YouTube views. And so it could go and check all my content analytics. And so I used N8N as sort of that middleware, to use that old school tech term, to give my AI the hands. And that could apply to any AI. So those Make, Zapier, N8N, any of these things that let you create webhook endpoints, you can use those, and any of the things they can connect to in a drag and drop workflow manner, you can use to build connections into any of those systems using any LLM.
100%.
So this is RPA on steroids, right?
Pretty much, for those who don't remember that term.
It depends on your definition of RPA.
Yeah, I was involved in selling it a number of years ago. I'm assuming the world's moved on, but it's robotic process automation, reducing swivel chair and just APIing everyone together. Yeah,
I think some of the RPA, I think Pega would argue RPA still got a place in the world. I mean, exactly. And I think what's happened is we've seen the accessibility and consumerization of these tools. So rather than needing a massive multi-$100,000 Pega investment to put in BPM and RPA, now there's platforms like N8N that allow people to do it cheaper, easier, faster, at a smaller scale. So SMBs can now access this technology that once upon a time only enterprises had. So it's a bit of that democratization of these technologies is what we're seeing. Yeah.
So you feel that we're still at the point now where the humble no-code automations have a lot of place?
I think so. I mean, obviously, like the more vibe coding picks up, or sort of agentic engineering, I think is the preferred term now. As that gets more sophisticated, that's good. But at the end of the day, you still then need to host those connections, how you're managing your security, where those workflows are. Sometimes, it's easier to just use a visual builder, depending who you are. And for me, that was much easier. Just go into N8N and create a few little workflows to give my anti-gravity agent hands. For you, Matt, it might be quicker to smash up some Cloudflare worker APIs and push them up to Cloudflare. I don't know. For each their own, but I think there's no one way to roam.
Like all of these APIs are usually just HTTP requests of some variety.
Yes.
Usually a post or a get or something like that, just super, super simple. And those your agents can just do. like a good example is I still build N8N backends for various things like voice agent companies that need tooling and stuff like that. And that's just like a good preferred way to do it. Because like you said, it's easy just to visualize it and see the flows and, build the cases. But I use my local agent to curl those endpoints with the expected payloads to then check that the workflow works, run this through all the different cases.
That is very clever.
And
I used to get overwhelmed merging two databases between Microsoft Outlook and, pick which field goes with name, first name. I mean,
Yep.
That is very
Yeah.
cool.
Then like you have other applications like Linear, for example, which is good for just task and project management through teams, and it's kind of primarily built around software and dev teams, but that they have an API interface that doesn't really exist in many places. There's an official MCP, but it's kind of slow and clunky and it just clogs your context window. So I went in search of a CLI version of the same thing so that my agent could just call commands that hits those endpoints accurately, directly with the right auth, and everything just works instantly. I could have set up multiple different N8N workflows and endpoints and different little like entry points, with the webhook nodes, but I was like, this is what I want to do. Can you just go figure it out? And then it asked me a few bits and pieces. I had to give it a few little bits and pieces. And at the end of it, I've got this perfect agentic just interface layer now between my coding agents locally and then the Linear app itself, which I don't even open anymore. I basically say, let's organize our work, and it'll just find the most relevant issues to go through, batch them, and put together a plan and go and just complete them at the end of it.
Let me ask a question of you two. I'm just thinking people might be thinking about AI and copyright. Not the copyright that you wrote a song that sounded like Kenny Rogers, and the Kenny Rogers family is not happy about that because it's used a library and pinched the sound, or I think there were some lawsuits going around a few months or 12 months ago. What I'm interested in is, in the software world, we've always said, here's an idea. Wouldn't it be great if someone wrote a bit of software like that? And then the person who went and wrote it, which took effort and money and investment and testing, did it. And then they went to market and became a company. And like some of the companies you're talking about, it became something. Since vibe coding is so quick, right? Just like you said, you've got to be smart like you guys. Like people like me can't do it. We could suggest it, but we wouldn't know where we're going. But within context, if you vibe code a widget, an app, an interface, an agent that works really well, what if someone does it at the same time? And where does copyright come into with that sort of stuff? What do you think?
It's a really good time for you to say that, because there just was this massive thing about Anthropic having a massive whinge about the Chinese companies stealing data from their models, where they were the ones that stole all the data in the first place. So yeah, like the whole copyright thing, it almost is going to become a myth. It's my closest analogy that I think most people will be able to like paint a picture of is music. If I go and I take one of the main melodies from one of the old classic Beatles songs and I remix it and turn it into some club hit, people aren't going to say, hey, you stole that from the Beatles song.
They won't recognize it. Yeah. Because I think my brother's a muso, and he's been a recording artist and performer, Chris Webbe, on the road for 40 years, and he tells me, I'll probably get it wrong, but he basically said to me, there's like a limited number of notes and chords.
Yeah,
there's only a bit above single digit, right? And then the arrangement of those, of course, therefore must be limited, and therefore, oh dear, how many new tunes can you actually come up with? There is a finite number, and then on top of that, we know that copyright under music and art. I'm not sure about under music and songs and right. It's not enforceable after 50 years, is it? That's why people get Mozart's music and reconvert it into a rock song and do exactly what you just said. And I had this feeling, the same way Elon Musk and that was saying that money will no longer be of value. I have this feeling that information will be totally democratized. So when you're in the information industry and you make money out of sharing information, if anyone can get access to information, you're not going to make money out of that anymore.
100%. That's what ASI is.
Sorry?
That's what ASI is. People talk about AGI, artificial general intelligence, which we basically have now. It's very close. It's just fragmented. But ASI is that level where we hit that singularity and everyone has access to everything at any time. Totally
democratized. So all of a sudden we have to think like tradespeople, right? And I mean that literally, as in the tradesperson doesn't make the brick, he just lays it a certain way. That's why we pay him, because he's, or her, I should say, slap me down. That's the value add. So our new world of working is going to be, if you get that information, how you're adding value to it. And of course, information's being recreated all the time. So we're not saying human creativity will stop. We're just saying that okay, I've got this. Because I keep thinking, I mean, I got up this morning and I've been writing a book for about 4 years. And with the help of AI, I've got a lot of it done in one morning. Now, I already had the content there, I had the stories, the ideas, but to assemble it and add a little bit of that information that I didn't have that's now democratized, it just appears. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is nuts.
It is nuts. I like that term. Very nerdy term. It's nuts.
Well, you should say hi to Jo as well. She's commented in and
Oh, hey, Jo.
Pieces.
Yeah, she's here we go. Each of our vibe code projects have our own nuances, similar applications, but minor variants. It's interesting. I don't think, Richard, is it copyright or is it going to be trademark or patent? Like, because patents, you can patent like a design. There's a design patent. So it's not the exact code, but it's, that A plugs into B, which generates C. And that pattern of function is something that people patent. And I know there's varying arguments on this. And I say this as someone who is a patent holder, but I don't own the patent. My ex-company paid for it, but it's got my name on it. But that idea of encouraging innovation by allowing the inventor and the innovator to profit from it for a fixed period of time encourages more innovation. So there is an importance to things like patent law and copyright and trademark to encourage innovation and invention. But at the same point in time, if 5 people invent the same thing at the same time because the technology is allowing that to happen, like if 5 people created OpenClaw at the same time, if one company like OpenAI say they bought it and trademarked it and whatever because they bought Peter Steinberger, they're putting it in a foundation. They're not doing that. But say they did, then anyone else who creates an agentic interface to have an agentic personal assistant that has a heartbeat function and can be wired up to tools, can they then go and litigate anyone who wants to create something similar? That's where
it's a very good point. In the patent world and the copyright world, there's a few basic rules. And like yourself, David, I've been down this path. A friend of mine who created one of the very first online auction websites, and he wanted to patent the technology. And Chris Land, if you're listening, how are you doing? And what's interesting is he and I went and saw his patent lawyer with him. And he looked at it, he said, oh, you've got to patent this. This is really important. So we did that. And then someone came up with a much worse, clunkier, straw man type, pulled together bits and pieces. And the minute we went back to the lawyers, it's very hard to defend this, right? They took the money for the patent. They didn't want to defend it. They didn't want to get close. You can't copyright or patent the fact that the sun's coming up, because the rule of copyright and patent it, if it's a known fact, you can't patent facts. So if serendipity creates a situation with AI where at the same time the fact exists that you're creating something that confirms that fact, you end up in a world of pain.
Yeah,
it's hard to understand. I think timing used to be the one who lodged the patent first.
There is something to be said. I mean, some people really want to hoard patents for that very purpose, to litigate and make money off the fact they own the idea. I know a lot of businesses they have defensive patents. So if there's an idea, they want to patent it. So that way, if someone tries to say, "Hey, that was my idea," they can go, "Well, hang on, we've got the paperwork that says no, you can't take us to court for that because we own it. You can keep doing it. We're not going to stop you from doing it, but you can't come at us for money."
Some copyright and patent, and I'm just confirming for everyone, I am not a lawyer and don't take my advice. Copyright and patent and all that stuff can be trumped if you can produce a device that was built well before you can. So it's not like going out and registering website names, harrisonford.com. So I make money on the back of Harrison Ford. And it's very interesting. I don't know if you remember the rotary engine created.
Yeah.
Mr. Wankel was his name. Well, what was funny is my dad designed one and built one that was the same basic functional rotary style engine well before Mr. Wankel did it for the Renault organization or whoever it was. And I kept saying to Dad, why don't you just go and sue the ass off these guys? And I think he actually did speak to someone, but it's a very long, expensive, difficult road. And maybe that way on purpose, because if you invent something, that's great. If you invent it, work on it and take it to market and it helps people, that's a different story. So, hey, we don't know the answers, but they're important ones. Matt, you're going to say something. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
I said Wankel.
Yes. I said it too, and we're not swearing. It's the name of the man that invented the rotary engine.
That's true. And it's like the thing that I built, which is like, quote Obsidian for agents. It's probably not very nice legally for me to use that terminology because it's playing on somebody else's IP and that kind of thing. But it's the analogy that I'm sort of using to do with how can I give everything access to its own note system, but also share that note system, and then, like your intranet, I'm going to be installing agents for my clients, the people that I speak to in Slack that are relying on me for work, those companies are going to have their like Matt agent that has access to its own version of that Obsidian for agents, where it's its own little knowledge core for that company, the sovereign data, like you mentioned before. And yeah, for them to be able to just instantly look stuff up. I think we've mentioned in the past, like when people could all of a sudden chat to a PDF, it was really exciting and really fun. But now we can spin up multiple PDFs with specific data variables, to help search through things and explore things and wander, and also be able to create and recall anything you need. So I don't know, it's exciting. And does that become something that I'm now like able to be liable for because I've not copied, but it's like a similar approach, like, and then
if we follow Elon Musk and a few other futurists' view of the world with AI, the automation and the technology, and they say money won't become a part of it. So then if money's not a part of it, patent and copyrights don't matter.
It's all Bitcoin in the future. That's why money doesn't. Fiat currency is dead.
It's a good point though, because it makes you go like, if I was to try and commercialize that, how would I monetize it? What would the business model look like, or the money model, as Alex Hormozy likes to say? And then, is there any point trying to put a payment behind it, or do I just put it out there for free, and those that want to install it can install it and run it on their own hardware? Like, where is the economics at scale when everyone can just make things and provide it for others?
Well, here's an interesting perspective. I'll shut up a sec, Dave. Sorry, it just jumped into my head.
No, don't let him talk.
So when musicians used to make money out of the music, right, and they don't anymore. They make money out of the performances because the amount of money they make out of music now, and everyone was scared the creativity of music was going to be killed because if capitalism saves everything. Because money was put behind medical research and it just accelerated, it all went forward. And not saying capitalism is perfect, but it was a way of financing and motivating people to do new things and create new things. And so when I think about what we're talking about with AI and the music industry, so they went from selling records to performing. So maybe the currency of the future is getting recognition that you are the person that created that. And you become like a rock star where people want you to come around and pass, judgment on what they're doing. I'm thinking intellectual currency. Sorry, David, you go.
This is the open source thing that comes up a lot. And I mean, you mentioned, I think last week, Richard, Red Hat open sourced Linux or Ubuntu or whatever it was back in the day. But then they sold professional services on top of it. They sold support packages. So here's the thing for free, but we know you can't do it yourself. And so pay us for some guarantees to help get it working and make it run effectively. And so more recently, we saw OpenClaw, Peter Steinberger, and I was talking to ChatGPT, go like, how did he make any money off OpenClaw? And he didn't. He got money by being acqui-hired by OpenAI. Yeah. But he developed this thing and put it out there. Now, in the future, people like Matt, who create agent systems, and I'm working on some stuff as well around the anti-claw idea I've been talking about and seeing what I can do productize with that. Again, I mean, unless you want to have a fully hosted SaaS where you want to create a platform where people don't have to do any hosting, they can just log in and pay you money and you manage it all and they just run it on your systems. That's one monetization path. The other one is you do give it away and you can also sell professional services on helping people set it up and implement it. So here's this thing. Sure, you can have it free. But if you want our best practice knowledge and guidance to implement it and set it up and do the education and the onboarding so they know how to pull the crank on the chainsaw, then give us a call.
Yeah, so it is that depth of understanding. We see those dummies books and stuff like that. Excel didn't make us all accountants. It just made us more accurately count things. And so you guys are saying that, okay, yeah, you'll be able to create this yourself, but then what do you do with it? How do you manage it? How do you service it? And where do you go from there? And we do need people with experience, perspective, and creative minds to help us navigate where we go in the future. Of course, this is only going to roll out slowly over the next 100 years. So no one should panic now that we're getting rid of money, but it's an interesting perspective to have.
Yeah, I mean, even my anti-claw system that I built up with my little skill files with my superhero agents, I didn't share that straight away because I know it's a limited audience of people that can actually comprehend what that even is and how to use it in a tool like anti-gravity. I mean, like, it's one of those things that's set for a specific audience that are comfortable in a code editor. I mean, you're very competent, Richard, but I think you don't probably want to be living in anti-gravity code editor to talk to business files and things. That's not where you're going to be your happy place. And so, as much as I could deploy this and give you a version of this, it's not actually suitable. And so, like, if you even the concept of this sort of business in a box hierarchy of agents. I was talking to some people around that concept, and then they were saying, "Do you think people would even know how to use that? Do you reckon like that would be even a thing?" And it's just because it's so beyond what people understand. The way people like us in our little AI bubble are talking about these tools and how to use them, the regular Joes out there are just like, that's too much. It's like the chainsaw. Like, what do you mean that this thing could actually fire up and spin fast and cut things down fast? It's just incomprehensible to them, which is I'm gonna try and do something that I think is relevant here. Can I find it and bring it up on that? We're seeing this.
Yep. I actually saved something on X earlier today too. See if I can share the link with you.
People giving OpenClaw root access to their entire life. We're giving them a gun and they're going to kill everyone.
It's like giving a chimp. So it's not like giving them a gun. It's like giving a chimp a gun who has no idea what it's doing, has no guardrails or controls, is just going to be unfettered chaos.
Yeah.
And so I think we're seeing there's people at that end of the spectrum going, oh, I'll jump onto this thing. And, they're holding the chain while they crank the thing and they're going to cut their own hand off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's all going to be all different technical levels as we go through here. So that whole how do you productize some of this stuff is going to be interesting because, yes, some people just build it themselves. Some will want to grab something off the shelf and use it, and they will have the technical competence to use it. Some will be like the chimp thing there where they're just going to cause themselves a whole world of pain because they don't know what they're doing with it. And many will just go too hard.
And time to market, which is a really, Matt, you specialize in that area, helping companies. Time to market is a critical factor, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. When you have a founder or a company lead go, I have this amazing idea, let's find somebody to do it. They want it done that week. And a lot of the time, even with all of the AI speed up, a lot of the time these large projects are delivered over, a month at least. And yes, that's fast now compared to what it used to be, but you still got to wait that period. And on the same token, Dave, with the idea of handing over the gun there, I just shared a quick link that you might be able to share with people as well. It's Peter actually responded to this, the creator of OpenClaw, and said, this is good. People need to know that this thing exists. This is somebody that had a scenario where their OpenClaw kind of went a bit rogue and they were actively trying to stop it. And you can even see here, so there's a little bit of tool call notes. Basically, the thing started saying, yeah, no worries, I'll clean up your email inbox for you. Let me go find everything and clean it.
Do not do that.
Stop, don't do anything. Stop OpenClaw.
Until I kill my processors on the host. I always think about and there's the policing, the security, all of that are extra things that we need the experience on. You may all remember when the US Stock Exchange, everyone was running an algorithm on, I think it was on a Sun platform from memory many decades ago, and it was a buy-sell algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
All the agents had it. If it drops below this percentage, sell. If it goes above, buy, or vice versa. And I think the US Stock Exchange had to shut it down because everyone was running the same algorithm. with the same parameters at the same time. So if a share price slightly moved, it went bang because it started selling. If it went bang, and it was like, man, Poseidon, it was mad.
Well, now they still do a lot of that, I think, but it's high frequency trade, like the nanosecond. So the ones that win that sort of arbitrage trading are the ones with the fastest connection to the stock data, where they can make the transactions before anyone else, and they're in and out. So they talk about this high frequency trading, and there's people that are running supercomputers close to the exchange data centers, so that they get those sub-second times and can execute these buy and sell trades very quickly, and just, it's the old Richard Pryor sort of shaving cents off every dollar kind of strategy that they're doing.
I have a
coin mining. Go on.
There's another question from Joe here, which I feel like I wouldn't mind taking the reins of, but
we need to get Joe on the program. By the way, she's great.
It would be good. Yeah, she could join us. So yeah, the difference between all of these different agents really comes down to how you are accessing them and how they are accessing your files. So anti-gravity lives inside an integrated development environment, so an IDE, the place where you go write code. You can see files, you can do things. It's a big multiple function suite type thing. Whereas Claude Code, just using your example there, is the same thing with all of that abstracted. So Claude Code literally just is a terminal agent that has the exact same functionality that anti-gravity has, but you don't see any of the file stuff. All you're doing is talking to it. Now, obviously there's layers to that. Those that know that you can have various file watching applications, and you can have your Git tracking applications through the terminal window as well. But the premise of it is you have an agent that can interact with your files in a specific directory. How do you actually interact with that, and what do you want to do to interact with that? You could just pipe it into Telegram, for example, and use that as your interface, and it's running now on your computer, and you can just talk to it wherever you want. Like, that kind of selling point is pretty much why I reckon Peter was like, let's go and make this OpenClaw thing. So it's this always running thing that has access to your computer in its own space. The choice between tools is kind of like going to a bookshop and going, well, which book do I get? They all have pages and they all have words. It just comes down to which one you enjoy interacting with the most on which user interface level.
Matt, your view of solving a problem with abstraction and creativity is quite astounding. I enjoy listening to it when you say, oh, well, let's try this. I know why you do what you do. It's cool.
Thank you.
Actually, I should say it. Dave does that with his agentic AI family and his superheroes. He spins me out all the time.
The models are all getting better and closer, and they can all kind of do the similar jobs anyway. They might execute some aspect better than others. So I'm building a complicated thing with a front end and back end, and I'm living in anti-gravity as my primary IDE in development environment. And I'll actually say to it, as I sort of plan out functions, I'll say which model I have access to within anti-gravity, Gemini Pro, Gemini Flash, or Sonnet Opus. Or I actually still have OpenAI Codex. So I've got that as an option as well. He goes, oh, for that particular back-end thing, that structure and function, give that Codex. Oh, that's very front-end, React, web interface thing. That's Sonnet. Okay, that's somewhere in between and requires deep thinking. Use Gemini Pro. And so I'm actually getting the models to recommend which model I should apply different tasks to. If you're just in one, then maybe you've just got one, and that's fine. But you've just got to... There's no right and wrong answer, I think, but it's finding where you feel productive. And I feel really productive in anti-gravity and a little bit in Codex, because I've got to actually switch between the two, because I'm hitting quota limits now. I'm coding so hard now that my paid plans on both, I'm just in the mid-tier plan. I'm just running out of actual token credit and asking questions, which is actually starting to slow me down. I'm like, such a big jump from like the $20, $30 to like the $200. And I think with Gemini, 200 is just there on special price. It's normally $400 a month for the Gemini Ultra. Like, it's just crazy expensive, in which case you go, well, I did like working in anti-gravity, but if Claude Code Ultra is half the price, maybe I just need to move everything over to working out how to use Claude.
Well, I think your best choice would be to move to something like Cursor. Like Cursor was one of the best first agent IDEs that came out. And they had a really good run, and there's still people that use Cursor and they never stopped. I used it for a while and I'm like, I don't need it anymore. The same with anti-gravity. I was there and then didn't need it. So I think we should probably talk to people more about tools that exist between the layers that they're aware of, because Cursor as a tool is completely model agnostic.
Yeah.
You can run any model through it as long as they got it in there. So all of the Codex models, all of the Anthropic models, all the Gemini models, even they have their own, which they call Composer.
I did jump into Cursor for a little bit before anti-gravity because I had Codex and OpenAI didn't have their own desktop app at that point in time, but they had a Codex plugin for Cursor, so I started using Codex through their Cursor plugin, and it was okay, and I was getting reasonable results, but I wasn't really happy with it. And then anti-gravity dropped, and I jumped over there, and the Gemini just blew me away, and I was like, "Oh, I live here now."
I know 100% because I followed this pretty closely. You were using the rubbish version of Codex. Like, you should have just been going straight through direct usage in Cursor.
Yeah, why would they put a rubbish version in the plugin? I would have thought the plugin should be using the CLI API.
Go ask the OpenAI devs. Why can't they name anything?
Any of the companies that we've mentioned, we are looking for sponsorship, so please send your money.
Of course, yes, always. It's interesting, although this plan thing and hitting quotas. I saw this post today. I'll hide his name because I don't want to embarrass someone unnecessarily. But this is the weirdest post that I've seen around all this sort of stuff. This guy feels like he's got cash to burn. AI power users need a hand. I've been hedging across a smattering of the $20 plans, kind of like me, to stay on top of the best models for different tasks, but feeling a bit of FOMO. It may be time to double down and jump on a single heavy duty plan to make sure I'm not missing out on anything. Thoughts worth going on the heavy plans, even if you aren't hitting usage limits? Are the conversational outputs noticeably different? Is my FOMO legit? So, I mean, he's not just doing it, but he thinks that maybe, to your point, Matt, is he using a crap version of the models because he's only paying $20? Will he get a better version at $200?
That exists. I can speak to that. Like, in some cases, that absolutely exists, where the higher tiers will give you priority inference, which is faster and on better chips with better RAM, which gives you a better result inherently. Yes. Not every company
he's not crazy.
Not every company will disclose that, but yeah, 100%. And you even get early access features and stuff too, which I don't know if that's of use with regards to the FOMO idea, but
I just thought it was weird that he's not hitting usage limits, but he wants to spend 10 times as much money.
Yeah. My progression personally, like, I was on Gemini CLI building using just the Google $20 US plan. And all of a sudden my usage limits were pinned and I couldn't do anything about it. So I'm like, okay, let's get into some Claude stuff. So I restarted my $20 Claude and then just pinned it. So I'm like, okay, it's the $100 Claude. And then I pinned it. And then I'm like, okay, I got to go to the $200 US Claude. And then I haven't hit the cap on that yet. So yeah, for somebody that's not hitting the caps, I don't know. You would have to look what each company discloses, what they actually do and don't do at the different tiers. You can ask your existing agents to go research that for you. And then, make that decision based on feature. But I always tell people, use the tools that you are currently paying for. And if you haven't capped to the limit and you want to try a different one, that's fine. You can always cancel the tool and go to another tool.
The other night, I hit my Codex. I ran out of Codex because of the amount of deep back-end work that I was doing, and I was getting to do some sort of Ralph-style loops. And I'm fortunate. I've talked about my business subscription and some of the pros and cons of that. But one of the pros turned out to be that you've got to have 2 seats. And so I'm paying for 2 ChatGPT licenses on the business plan. So I got my wife to give me her password because I gave her one of the seats. And on that particular plan, on some OpenAI plans, it's a global quota, but on the business plan specifically, it's per seat. So I logged in as my wife, and the Codex environment didn't care who I was logged in as because it was still operating off the same native file system off my computer, and I was back to 100% quota and back to building.
Nice.
So that was a nice hack. With Gemini, I'm like anti-gravity. I'm pretty much running out of their Claude credits. I'm pretty much out of Gemini Pro credits for like 4 or 5 days, and I think the solution is going to be similar, and I'm better off spinning up another $20 plan, like with Gemini, and to get a second full batch of quota than going to the $400 plan.
I would like you to get into the Gemini CLI and do the exact same thing, because they actually separate their quota. You've got anti-gravity and then you've got Gemini CLI, and it's separate quota.
Joe just asked an important question, which I was going to ask myself, and that are the caps based on time, usage?
It varies.
Tokens, number of requests.
It varies. So you have a monthly quota, let's say, and that's usually not very disclosed. But then you'll also have a weekly, and then usually a 5-hourly. So like I know, like on the lower, when I moved to Claude, for example, on the lower Anthropic Claude Code plans, if you cap that 5-hour, you then have to wait 5 hours before you can start going again. And then if you just keep pinning that, you'll hit the weekly, and you can't do anything until you've waited another 3 or 4 days. And
that's where I'm at. Like it says 5-hour reset, but that rolls into a bigger number. And so if you hit the 5 hours too hard too many times, all of a sudden it's like, okay, you are now in jail for 5 days.
Yeah.
Like, come on. But yeah, again, it's some of the anti-gravity isn't just the models. It is the way that they've system prompted it in to work with the file system, to use its browser sub-agent, and like with any of these models and the way they're implemented, it's like, unless you're going direct to API and maybe direct via CLI, where it's very much, this is the context you have. I am giving you these specific files on this specific folder. Go do this exact thing. With some of the IDEs, like your anti-gravity, a little bit like ChatGPT with its magical context, it will proactively search and use a bit of its own inference across the top of your specific request and things like that, I think, which can be really helpful and useful. I don't know, Matt, tell me if I'm making stuff up there, but that's the way it seems to be to me.
You're doing what I do, which is just letting your words chain to one or the other. You got to try it. You got to feel it. You have to literally do it and experiment. Like I would like to suggest that you can have the exact same experience as what you've been having inside Anti-Gravity in the Gemini CLI. It just probably requires a tiny piece more work to set up the same, like you said, the what was your words? The system prompting and like the layer of control on top.
Stuff.
Like for example,
sounds like a plan.
We're at the hour. I do want to wrap it up, but we talked at the start around, sovereign data, having sovereignty, where is your data kept, intranets, all that kind of stuff. Now, when I was at Telstra, people were still running small business servers in their own hardware. They had little hearts, like every small business had a small little server rack in the corner that was running their own local exchange server for their email domain and everything. Or they were outsourcing it to an outsourced provider that hosted it for them. There was no Office 365. Microsoft Cloud wasn't really existing yet. It was just in its early infancy. SaaS as a whole 15 years ago was brand new, and everyone was still running locally hosted servers and stuff. It was all on-prem, as we call it now. We're seeing, I think, with this AI thing and with the amount of data and the risk and the leaks and all, we're actually coming full circle. We've gone from putting everything to the cloud to everything wanting to come back in-house, especially for your bigger enterprises. And Microsoft have actually seen the wind changing. I saw this one come out 13 hours ago from Satya. We're building the most comprehensive digital sovereignty platform to help countries and organizations meet their regulatory, security, and operational needs across Microsoft Sovereign Cloud. So now they're basically making the whole Azure Office 365 stack something that you can deploy in your own data centers on your own metal. And so they went from let's take all of the Exchange and all of the Microsoft server stuff and put it in the cloud, and you pretty much had to go to cloud. Who runs their own Exchange server anymore? It's all in there. To now going, now that people want to run their own local models and their own local data, and they don't want everything out there with AI training on everything, we need to give people the option to host it back on their own metal internally behind the firewall. So it's interesting to see Microsoft taking that approach as well.
Yeah, the concentric circle model. What I used to do myself today, I give to someone else to do so they can scale it across more people.
Well, if
it's overused, I need to bring it back in-house.
Well, think about that with our power grid, right? We went from people had little steam engine things outside their house, maybe if they wanted to run something, or they were doing a bit of fire stuff, and then power plants came in and it all got industrialized, and who's going to generate their own power? Who wants to be their own power station? And now, look, solar panels, batteries. Yeah. We're going to run all our own power back at the edge. And so we go back and forth. And where does the infrastructure live? Do we want it on the edge, or do we want to centralize it? And we're seeing that now with AI, IT. It's going back to the edge.
Amazing.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, one and all, wherever you've watched, whenever you've watched. If you joined us live, excellent. Thank you for our chat contributor today, Joe. Thank you very much for participating in the show there. Anyone else who ever wants to join us live and contribute to the chat, you can do that. We are here at the same bat time, same bat channel, midday, Sydney Eastern Time, Wednesday.
And reach out to us via LinkedIn if they've got a question.
Yes. All our links to our websites and things, and our links are all in the description box below. So hit that up. And gentlemen, thank you for engaging and insightful conversation. And we'll see you back here next week.
Thanks, Matt. David, have a great week.
Thanks all.
Bye.